Let me tell you what I believe. I, in my heart of hearts, believe we're all descended from aliens. It's true, guys. I saw it on the History Channel and it makes sense to me. It's suddenly as if all my beliefs were crystallized and made real. I even Googled and Facebooked it and it's all true. I even found this article about 11 hints that we are descended from aliens. How else could you explain 1MDB? Clearly aliens. What do you mean you don't believe me? What do you mean you have proof we aren't? Well, my Facebook feed tells me otherwise. After all, it's just my opinion, isn't it? You don't believe me? Well, screw you and your beliefs, you friendless loser. Screw you. Does anything I just said sound familiar to you? Well, it should, because it is basically the distilled version of the comment section for any platform out there. And if any of you have previously uttered any of the words I just said, I have two pieces of advice for you. 1, seek counseling and get a better news source than Facebook. 2, watch Vikings on History Channel instead. Just as factually inaccurate, but at least you get to stare at bare-chested men and women. But there's no way to run away from the fact that 2016 was the year of fake news, where the stories are categorized as being factually wrong, usually push propaganda, and mostly finds its home and oxygen on social media. Specifically, Facebook. BuzzFeed actually found that in the months leading up to the US presidential election, the top performing fake election news stories on Facebook generated more engagement than the top stories from reputable news outlets, such as the New York Times and the Washington Post. There is a reason why Oxford dictionaries announced post-truth as the word of the year, and it can be argued that it played a part in that Alec Baldwin lookalike winning the election. Truth is, fake news has been around for ages, but what's different now is how we consume our news. It is no secret of the universe that newspapers are struggling. Most of us these days actually choose to read our news online or in bite-sized pieces like Twitter. But because of Facebook's increasingly Skynet smart algorithm, the news that you read on your wall is exclusively tailored to you. So, if you happen to be a cat lady who is into Star Wars /fiction and 50 Shades of Grey, it is no surprise that your Facebook feed would throw up pet care tips, which bondage ropes chafe, and a lot of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker lovingly crossing swords. Hence why, if you are a white supremacist who believes that minorities are ruining America, the articles that you read on your Facebook will likely just feed into your conspiracy-laden, Rogue One-hating paranoia rather than dissuade it. Why do they hate Rogue One? Because it has a female lead and she's surrounded by a Chinese, an African American, and a Mexican. Duh. This effect is called the echo chamber, and like it or not, we all have one. There's a reason why people were surprised when Hillary lost, because if they already hated Trump, their news feeds wouldn't be telling them otherwise. Fake news is not harmless, and more often than not, it can have chilling consequences. Look at the case of Pizzagate, where a tweet from a white supremacist about how Hillary Clinton was running a pedophile ring out of the Comet Ping Pong Pizza Parlor evolved into pages and pages of bat conspiracy theory. Although it had no basis, there were no victims, and no crime had been reported. Tell that, though, to Edgar Welch, who walked into Comet Ping Pong and fired off 3 rifle shots because of his belief in Pizzagate. Luckily, no one was hurt, and Welch surrendered after finding, guess what? No evidence. But he still believes Pizzagate to be true and pleaded not guilty because he cray. Now, before you laugh at the Americans, what I'm saying about fake news becomes even more important as we go into our own election year. The truth is, we are just as guilty of spreading fake news and hoaxes simply because our fear outweighs our common sense. Rather than taking 2 minutes to check, we prefer the 2 seconds it takes to press send. Look at what happened this week, when a WhatsApp message made its rounds that Bank Negara would charge you $12.70 if you didn't replace your bank card before a certain deadline. What made it believable is, yes, we do need to replace our bank cards anyway, and that rather oddly specific number, which somehow made it even more credible. Bank Negara immediately came out and rubbished it, but it already sent a lot of people legging it to their nearest bank and posting their pictures of doing so, for some reason. It's a vicious cycle. People go to the bank in droves, cards run out, you get pissed off, post it on Facebook where it pops up on feeds of people already pissed off at banks. Pissed off inception! In all seriousness, expect a lot of fake headlines and a lot of agenda pushing when the election campaigning begins in earnest. From both camps. Whether it be a fake letter said to be written and signed by DPM Datuk Sri Zahid Hamidi requesting PM Datuk Sri Najib to step down, which included a brand new cabinet lineup, or a WhatsApp message of Penang Chief Minister Lim Guan Eng supporting the action against the Rohingya Muslims in Myanmar. Both fake, both designed to incite maximum outrage, made by people who maybe simply, in the words of Michael Caine from Batman, wanted to watch the world burn. Admittedly, we in the country are also suffering from a trust deficit in our mainstream media as well, which makes the bad stuff easier to believe and share regardless of whether it is true. So, how do we know if news is fake? Facebook, which had earlier downplayed its role in the fake news movement, has now rolled out tools that make it easier to identify a news story as a hoax. Articles can now be flagged as disputed, with a link to a corresponding article explaining why. Above all, just Google to see if there are any other stories supporting the original one you clicked. And there's even a fake news plugin you can use for Google Chrome. Trust more than one reputable news source. And as hard as it is to make time for, go beyond your Facebook echo chamber and read stories that hold opposing views to yours. You may not like what they say, but hey, at least you know what the other side thinks. Funnily enough, this actually makes it easier to dispute them. And even if your trust in mainstream media is broken, treat those alternative websites with the same amount of healthy skepticism, especially if it involves notable names. Because, and I quote The Guardian, rest assured, if Justin Bieber pledges allegiance to ISIS, the mainstream media will cover it. And share responsibly, guys. Remember what I said earlier about pissed off inception? Don't be part of the problem. Instead, share this video of a cat hugging its owner's arm. Go ahead. Just saying.